Try to give you a mic check. Good evening and welcome to the February 17th regular board meeting. Our treasurer is not here this evening, so you're going to have to bear with me as I try to go through the agenda, but I'm also going to serve as our treasurer pro tem, so I'll be calling the roll. Mrs. Coates? Here. Mrs. Horn? Mr. Manley? Here. Mrs. Mooring?
Here.
And I am also here. Will you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve minutes from the January 6th organizational meeting, the January 6th special board meeting, the January 18th Finance and Facility Committee meeting, the January 18th special board meeting, the January 20th regular board meeting, the January 25th Policy and Governance Committee meeting, the January 27th special board meeting, and the January 27th Student Learning and Achievement Committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Any corrections to the minutes at all or other discussion? Okay. Mr. Manley? Mrs. Mooring? Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. We are on the school community reports and presentations section of the agenda. And our first presentation is our Gahanna-Lincoln Student Council President, Varun Miriala. And I'm told there is no button that you need to push on that microphone tonight.
My name is Varun Mariala. I'm a senior at Gahanna-Lincoln High School as well as the student council president. And just giving a few updates today. Since the last time I met with you guys, all the talk was about Gahanna-thon. Unfortunately, it was postponed again. We are currently working on a new date of March 19th. It's another Saturday, of course. And it's just difficult because Gahanna is involved in many sports and other activities. So our gym is constantly being used, and a lot of our students and staff are very busy. So we're just working on a date that can have the most community participation without outside students, but also student and teacher participation. So we're still working on finalizing a date, but right now it looks like Gahanna-thon will be March 19th. And again, it'll be an Olympics that is open to the community. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Gahanna-thon, it's our annual fundraiser for Nationwide Children's Hospital, the Oncology and Hematology Unit. So it's just another great way to unite the community for a great cause. And also, another major event that Student Council works on every year during the spring is Prom. And Prom is for sure going to happen this year. Again, the original date was April 16th, but that also fell in conflict with 3 major holidays. So we are working to move that day. It looks like it may also be moved to April 30th. But no matter what, Prom will be happening this year, which is amazing news. So we're very excited to be moving forward with that. And we just recently started looking into finalizing the venue dates and any details regarding that. But also, right now, as we aren't fully working on a major event, our wellness committee, run by Junior Blake Briel, is working on an initiative for the springtime to help students relax and de-stress from finals and AP tests, which would hopefully be held in the gym during lunch periods, where students could just take time to out of their day to participate in other activities that several clubs at Gahanna would be running in the gym, just to distress and relax and kind of have some sort of break from all of the school that would be happening then. And our Philanthropy Committee run by Junior Jalen Jones is also working on more community initiatives, hopefully happening in the spring. But also, along with student council, there's many amazing clubs at Gahanna, and one club, specifically the Y Men and Y Women Club, which was just started this year, is actually having a Spirit Week next week for Black History Month. So I just wanted to promote that again. Even though it's not a student council event, it's an amazing thing run at Gahanna. So those are the main updates, and if you guys have any questions, I'm open to answer.
Anybody have any questions for Varun? I know, is this the third rescheduling of Gahanna?
Yeah, the second, I believe. The second or third.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this one was weather related,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, thank you for the update. Appreciate, I'm sure the students who, I don't remember what you said the name of the other club was, Y Men and Y
Yeah,
Women.
Y Men and Women.
I'm sure they appreciate your
Yeah.
plug for their activities too. Thank you, Varun.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have from Gahanna Jefferson Education Foundation. She's already ready. Sharon Tomko. Thank you.
Wow. I feel very short. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Tomko, co-executive chair of the Gahanna Jefferson Education Foundation, along with Tricia Twigg. So we're GJEF. If you happen to read the article in the newspaper today, which was a wonderful article, it said GFEA. I'm not really sure what that organization is, but we're GJEF. So here we go. The Gahanna Gala, the silent auction, opens on Saturday. And we're having a completely different format than we've had. Last year we were virtual, and this year we're hybrid. So the auction opens on Saturday, and it'll run for an entire week. But what's different about it is it's going to close before our live event. So please, if you've signed up for the auction, realize it closes at noon on Saturday, February 26th, which is totally different. The good news is we are sold out. But there's better news. If you still want to participate, you can sign up, register for free, and still bid on silent auction items. So that's really great. We have probably close to 500 people already, so about 250 people in person. So it's an exciting time for us. There are lots of things that will be going on during the event that will be fun. Our theme is, and what's going on with the district, it's building for the future, so it's a construction theme. So we're excited about that. So we have a new game this year called the Bricklayer. So come on and join us to see what that is. Last time I was here, we talked about the initiative we are working on, Gear Gardens of Jefferson Township. And just a real quick update on that. We're working really hard behind the scenes with Jefferson Township and the New Albany Company because the property that we're looking at that Jefferson Township said we can use has very strict deed restrictions on them. And if we can't get those lifted, that property is pretty much useless to us. So we're hoping to be able to work those out, and it is keeping my fingers crossed that in March when I see you, I'm going to say those deed restrictions have been changed and that we will indeed be able to use that property. If we can't get the deed restrictions changed, Jefferson Township has promised us that they will look at other options for us. It's just we would have to start all over again. So we've already taken in the grant applications. We will be reviewing them the first week in March. We like to raise the money, spend the money. My husband says I earn the money and I spend it. So that's what we do, Trish and I do. We spend it really quickly. So we're excited about all of this, and I can't thank the community enough because without our business partners, all of you in the district, our parents, we would not be successful. So thank you so much. That's it. Any questions?
There was a really good article about the project
was
in the Rocky Fork as well.
Yes.
Hopefully, we will all keep our fingers crossed. I hope you'll be back to tell us good news too. Thank you. Next, we've got from Gahanna Jefferson Education Association, GJEA, Deanna Conley Stemple.
Hello. My name is Deanna Stipple. I'm one of the occupational therapists that work in the district. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not used to speaking in front of people, so I usually have one or just a small group. So I currently, at this moment in time, I work at Chapel Field Elementary, the high school, and I'm at Lincoln Elementary. I was at the middle school east and middle school south and middle school west up until just a few weeks ago. So with regard to GJEA, I have a script. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to read it. We just concluded our annual scholarship Nothing But Cake sale, and we were so excited to raise over $1,000 for our scholarship fund. Each year we offer 3 scholarships which have different requirements, but all 3 are met for students who are pursuing degrees in education. We believe it is vital that we continue to find ways to support future teachers. We offer 3 scholarships up to $2,000 each. Lincoln High School counselors share our scholarship information to seniors each year, and we are excited to have this platform to help our students become teachers. Just as we are looking for ways to encourage and support pre-service teachers, we hope the board will engage in talks about how we can continue to encourage and support the members who serve our children each day. Retention of quality educators and related service members will soon become the single largest issue facing public school districts. We look forward to partnering with the district to find ways to keep our fabulous educators here in Gahanna. Any questions?
You have any questions? Go ahead.
Just want to say we're really totally in agreement with all that, and that's exciting about the scholarships. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and the bundt cakes were wonderful, if anybody had any. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Mooring, anything from Finance and Facilities Committee?
Yes, we had a meeting on Tuesday, February 15th. There were 3 agenda items, reviewing January financials. Matt is our tech director, and he went through a very thorough 5-year forecast of technology expenses, and it's just amazing, all of the parts and pieces that are needed to support our computer initiatives and technology across the district. And then thirdly, we had a phase 2 construction update from Mark Ogden, our board representative, and focus, I guess, on the middle schools, and then briefly on the high schools. So it's a long, good meeting.
So, next, Mr. Manley, anything from Policy and Governance Committee? And if you'll, I'm just getting up. I'm not walking away. I just need another copy of the agenda.
Okay, so the policy meeting met on January 25th, and the committee had reviewed 8 policies, and they were array of communication devices, salary schedule, surplus property disposition, site acquisition, email. And basically, we're just updating the language and deciding which formats to follow. And we deleted one that was outdated and approved 3 or 4 more, and a couple of them are still being worked on. And we'll take on a bunch more policies next quarter.
Manley, anything from Student Learning and Achievement Committee? Mrs. Coates.
Yes, thank you. We met January 27th, and we had an amazing presentation by Mrs. Malbach for the speech and debate team. If you haven't seen that meeting from January 27th, please go on and watch it. Speech and debate was amazing. I learned a lot. My children weren't in it, but they really do a lot of great life skills. They give each other feedback. They have to practice giving the feedback and receiving the feedback, as well as the type of speeches that you have to make, your presentation style, reading the room. So I was very, very impressed with the program. At that meeting, 3 students were there. 1 actually gave a speech, which is another reason why I recommend you viewing the meeting, because the speech was incredible. And at the time, they were practicing for districts, their district qualifier. And I'm happy to share that 10 students are going to state finals, which is in March at Worcester. So very, very excited for this group. Very proud that we have this program at Gahanna. We asked her if there was anything we could do to support the program more. They are looking for judges, and they train the judges for this program. So if you're interested in being a judge, you can contact her at MUHLBACCH @GJPS.org. And they're taking a list now. You wouldn't need to be a judge till fall, and there'd be like plenty of time for training.
I do not have any slips from anybody for public participation tonight. If you are intending to speak during public participation, oh, are they all over there? I do have some slips for public participation. So for anyone who did not fill out a form and intends to address the board tonight during public participation, there are forms that are over there. It's not too late to fill them out. I see Judy is now standing over there. So as long as we're still in the period of public participation, it is perfectly fine to fill out a form and hand it to Judy so that it gets to me. For anyone who has not been with us at our regular board meetings during public participation before, the way that public participation works is that anyone who wishes to address the board, I'll call you up in the order that I have the forms. It is an opportunity for you to address the board. I just want to make sure that everybody understands. It is an address to the entire board. It's not an address to any one particular individual. It is not intended to be a dialogue. It's your opportunity to speak and say the things that you have on your mind to speak to us about. Sometimes the issues that you bring up are issues that somebody from the district might follow up with you on. That's why we ask you to give your contact information in case there's follow-up that's required. You've given us your contact information. The appropriate district staff will follow up with you if there's follow-up that's required. The other thing that I will say is that your comment should not deal with personnel matters. There's a different way to address those issues, and it's not during public participation at a board meeting. If you have a concern about a personnel matter, please reach out to one of the board members or to the superintendent, and we'll make sure that you get connected to the appropriate people for those issues. Public participation is limited to 3 minutes. I'm going to ask one of my board colleagues if there'll be timer, because I don't know if I can do 3 jobs at the same time. But the way, are you going to do it, Daphne? Okay. The way that it'll work is that Mrs. Mooring will let you know when you've hit 2 minutes. She'll give you a warning that you're at the 2-minute mark. And then she'll let you know when you've hit the 3 minutes. If you hit 3 minutes and you are not finished with what you have to say, you can request an additional 2 minutes to speak, as long as you are not repeating yourself. So if you have a thought that you need to finish, just ask for an extension of time, and as long as you're not repeating, that will be granted. So the first slip that I have for public participation is from Todd Emhoff.
Hello, Todd Emhoff. I came to talk about the mask mandates, but that's been somewhat preempted by the decision yesterday to eliminate those. Very logical, very good. And before I start, I did want to say, and I wanted not to forget, great job by everybody to keep school in school the whole time. So that was good because Kiara was not happy. I'm Todd Emoff, this is Kiara Emoff, my daughter, 3rd grade, Blacklick. Not happy when it was virtual. It was a really hard thing for her. So good job, everybody, to keep the schools open. So one of the things that we had to exercise, Kiara didn't like wearing the mask, and so as an exercise to get her involved, she kept some charts and data because they were doing data in Mrs. Reinhardt's 3rd grade, which was fun, wasn't it? So every week you can show the other people. They have a copy from last week, remember, from last night? Show the other people. This is the Gahanna, which required masks during the coronavirus Omicron, and then this is the New Albany, which did not require masks, and they are the same. So it turned out not to matter. So we follow science, and we did, and that's good. What is science? Science is where you're trying to figure out what's going on around us, what's going to be better for us, how we can improve things. You come up with a hypothesis of how to do it, and then you test it with experimentation, and then you take the data to show if you're succeeding or not. So we did that. We didn't have the data before, but now we have it. Hopefully we won't do the masks again because it doesn't work to stop the spread. It does work, however, to keep an individual in better shape, both mentally and physically. Thank you. So if an individual wants to wear it, it could be good for somebody who's immunocompromised or somebody that just has a lot of anxiety about being around people that are possibly have germs. And so my bottom line, what I'd like to see everyone do is be respectful of each other. There's been a student named Eden spoke here a couple months ago and was getting threatened at school because she didn't want to wear masks, and she was being told she was killing people. So everybody that doesn't want to wear a mask shouldn't be ridiculed or attacked by the people that do want to, and the people that do want to shouldn't be ridiculed or disparaged by the people that don't want to. Everybody's mixed now, and Kiara's class today was about 50-50. I had her come home and report. So the people that are, it's going to be mixed here for a few weeks, I would imagine. So everybody respectful to each other and no recriminations. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
and if
Emoff.
anybody wants copies of these, if they want their own, we have about a dozen copies. If anybody wants them, we have them in here if you like this.
Thank you, Mr. Emoff.
Thank you.
The next slip that I have is from Mark Booker.
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Mark Booker. My daughter is a 10th grader at Lincoln High School, and she is a history buff, and we've talked about this before. I wanted to just make sure, as we are looking forward into our history curriculum, that we are treating history in its truth, in its real truth. I know that there have been a lot of discussions in the news lately about what kinds of history we're teaching, what are we teaching, how are we teaching it. And the fact is that history will sometimes make people uncomfortable. If you're telling the real truth, it will make people uncomfortable. My thinking on this is this. If the truth makes you uncomfortable, don't get angry at the truth. Get angry at the lie that made you feel comfortable in the first place. So as we move forward, I just want us to make sure that we're examining the curriculum fully and teaching the full truth so that it is inclusive, that everyone knows what their contributions were and what the negatives were, because you can't teach history and just teach the good stuff. Thank you.
Booker. The next slip that I have is from Tony Sullivan.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for lifting the mask mandates. I know there are many parents and kids who are relieved that they can make the decisions for themselves, what's best for their family, on how to mitigate through COVID, Omicron, and thank you for that. For me, I ran for school board, and by running for school board, I learned a lot about our community. Our community is very diverse in many different topics. There are a lot of parents that are very passionate about every topic that it goes on with running our school district. And you have passionate people on both sides of every topic. I mean, you can have topics such as race relations or history, 1776 versus 1619, race relations, is America systemically racist? Is America the land of opportunity for all people? How are we going to teach the perspective that is best for our kids? And people are passionate on both sides of that topic. And so, along with many other topics, from gender to even math, it's very interesting, so many different topics. So I was kind of thinking about what could we do or what could be added to our schools to make it where people can have these back and forths. So I came up with something like a community discussion on different topics, maybe held by the high school, where people could come and express their concerns and their thoughts, and as a community we can kind of come together, because if we continue to shame one side and exhort the other side, or shame one side, exhort the other, that's going to continue to divide our community, and that's not what we want. And we're not going to get anywhere being divided, but we should be able to talk and discuss and have these tough topics, and people can talk about their perspectives, and hopefully the future of our schools will reflect the whole community, not one side or the other. So thank you, and I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. The next slip that I have is from Angela Sullivan.
Thank you. So many parents and students and teachers are rejoicing because the mask mandates for Gahanna schools have been lifted, which is great. Although this decision brings joy to many people, it also shows how people who've been denied a voice feel when their voice is finally heard. On this first day of optional masks, I've heard from many friends and parents. Some express that their kids are excited to finally see the smiles of their friends and teachers, but others have shared their concerns that unmasked kids have been teased and bullied about their appearance without a mask, or that they're going to harm or kill other kids by their breathing. Some tweens and teens who had their identities hidden behind a veil for 2 years chose to remain covered out of fear of what their peers will think about their face or their smile, or their fear that they'll be teased or that they will hurt someone with their breathing. I hope that the kids who've been psychologically affected by these last 2 years will find a way to recover, and I hope the administration is doing everything they can to make sure that all kids feel safe and welcome in Gahanna schools and not bullied or shamed if they decide to unmask. I also hope that the district will begin to listen not just to the appointed experts, the lobbyists and bureaucrats, but to the teachers that are actually in the classrooms, the students, and most of all the parents, without whom none of this would exist. There would be no students, no funding, and no schools at all without parents. Sometimes it seems like the administration and the school board have lost touch with what's really important, preparing the next generation of kids to be thinkers, creators, and innovators, to be prepared for the real world by starting a local business, leading a corporation, providing a valuable service to the community around them, or working to educate, heal, or help others. We cannot allow this mission to be sidetracked by political agendas, whether they come from government bureaucrats, labor organizations, or even our own school administration. Taxpayer-funded schools are not the place to push for globalist agendas, to degrade American society, to divide by race, or to use children who are still in their formative years to engage in social activism. The job of the school board is to represent the community, the families and students of this city. I hope that this board is focused on these goals so that our Gahanna community may continue to thrive and remain a good and decent place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. The next slip that I have is from Elizabeth Daniels.
Before I start my speech, I just wanted to say welcome to the new board members. I haven't had a chance to speak yet this year, so welcome. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm the chapter chair for Moms for Liberty Franklin County. Along with saying welcome to the new board members, I just wanted to say that I hope throughout your term you will do what's best for the children and always vote your conscience. If you are familiar with Moms for Liberty, we're a parent-led, nonpartisan organization, and our mission is to hold our leaders accountable for decisions affecting our children and to defend parental rights at all levels of government. Over the past few years, maybe even longer, the line between parental authority and education has been blurred. I've recently heard a saying, "Before a great awakening, there's a rude awakening." These words could be the mantra for our country lately. A couple years ago, many parents naively believed in the districts they sent their kids to. March 2020 changed that. Facing lockdowns and mandates, parents found themselves facing a massive rude awakening. You see, our parental rights and our constitutional rights don't end at the classroom door. Our responsibility as parents is to be fully involved, informed, and engage in our kids' education and environment at school. It is also our responsibility to guide the character building of our children through instilling family values, virtues, and morals. The school district's responsibility is to provide a quality education, an education that is focused on helping each student find their academic abilities and encourage their achievements, helping them become prepared for life after high school. It is not the district's responsibility to promote certain political ideologies over another, enforce a particular worldview, boost political or activist groups, or drive life-altering decisions on its students. While you have been masking our children, we as parents have started to unmask the hidden motives and operational methods. The trust extended by parents to the schools has been broken on so many levels, and we will not be fooled any longer. We are not uninformed. Parents have banded together to start researching laws, working with attorneys, talking to legislators, and learning how to hold leadership accountable. Many of us are helping write legislation, identifying candidates to run, and maybe campaigning to unseat people in elections if significant strides are not made to better our schools. We are researching the rabbit holes of curriculum and where all the funding comes from and what strings are attached. We are awake and we are organizing. We know our rights. As parents, we want to work with district leadership. We want to help better our schools by working together, but you should know that we won't be silenced. You handed us a rude awakening, and now we're welcoming you to our collective and great awakening. We look forward to hopefully working with you all because our children deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Daniels. The next slip that I have is from Jen Barnes.
A little shorter than everybody else. Can you hear me? Okay. Mr. Barrett and Board, my name is Jen Barnes, and I'm a parent here at Gahanna. We applaud that you have finally given the students the right to choose if they would like to wear masks. On your mask optional letter sent yesterday, you report that our positive cases and school spread have improved significantly. Could you please provide the actual positive case numbers this week as well as the school spread numbers for the last month? Many have called and emailed asking for this information, and it is yet to be published. Based on the January letter that you stated, you were ending contact tracing. However, you are still coming up with the number for school spread, which is contradictory. Also, these numbers should be made public since they are what is being used by your task force. Parents should not have to pursue this information. I know of a parent who has contacted the administration 6 times and still does not have the information. Actually crossed that because she got a response today, so that's good. Maybe we are no longer reporting these numbers, which would be fine, but someone needs to be able to answer parents' questions without handing the phone off. I can remember one of you on the board, or maybe a few of you, that campaign for the district to have more transparency for parents. People elected you on that promise, and I believe that our board and superintendent need to do a much better job at being transparent. Can you please provide a peer review study that the district is using to support your statement in yesterday's mask optional letter that states we recognize the role it, meaning masks, has played in limiting the spread of COVID-19 in our schools? Or is this your personal opinion? According to the intent to sue letter that I read, written by an attorney, Warner Mendenhall, that was posted on the internet, I understand the school district has violated the law in their process to receive over the $14 million in ESSER funds. Thank you. The ESSER funds was for the district to engage in meaningful consultations with students, families, school, district administration, teachers, principals, school leaders, school staff, and their unions. Instead, Gahanna formed a COVID task force of 5 to 6 volunteers who did not go through formal application process. The task force came up with unattainable metrics or threshold numbers that would need to be met to allow the district to going mask optional. I call on this board at this time to dismantle the COVID-19 task force so that Gahanna is not violating any laws. You owe the district an explanation, again, transparency, as to moving forward. If this is how the administration governs with the virus fatality rate of 0% in children, what would the district be capable of at a 1% fatality rate? According to the CDC in the U.S., may I have 2 minutes, please?
Have 2 more minutes, Mrs. Barnes.
Thank you. According to the CDC in the U.S., through the end of January, the death rate for age 0 to 17 is 0.008%. I understand this was the first pandemic for most of us, and we have learned a lot. You have never done this before. We expected you to be logical with this. Are you going to institute a mask mandate for a disease with a 0% fatality rate among children with high transmissibility rate in the future? Are you going to promote masking and testing protocols if another variant or another virus arises? I implore you to examine your policies going forward and do better with your transparency to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barnes. The last slip that I have is from Michael Sweeney.
My name is Michael Sweeney. I live at 343 Heil. I have 2 boys in the district, one at Middle School East and the other at Jefferson. There is some confusion that needs to be cleared up. We do not thank a bully when they stop. The harm and distress caused must be addressed and an apology must be made. Without an apology, healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation cannot occur. There are 3 parts to a proper apology. Admit there was wrong done, validate the harmed party, offer penance and opportunity to make it right. Every child in this district is owed an apology by every board member, administrator, teacher, and staff that contributed to the anxiety and distress they've been burdened with for 2 years. Every teacher and staff member is owed an apology by the school board members and administrators that created the conditions under which anxiety and distress were passed along to our children. And we all owe ourselves an apology for letting this go on for so long. There is a great deal of anger in our community, and how that anger gets channeled, for good or bad, depends on how this advice will be taken. We don't want our neighbors to be enemies. We want our friends and family to be cheerful and have joy. We want to trust, and we want to earn that trust. Again, apologize, be sincere, acknowledge the harm, offer penance and the opportunity to make it right. Continue the process of doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I do not have any other slips for public participation, so I'm assuming that that is everybody who intended to address the board this evening. We are on page 3. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda at all tonight? Oh, do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, so I think we need to make a motion for Treasurer Pro Tem.
Okay.
So that you can,
Okay, so we can, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Under. Yeah. Is there a motion to appoint a treasurer pro tem for this evening? Is there a motion to appoint me as treasurer pro tem for this evening?
I move that Beryl Picolantonio be president or treasurer pro tem this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Mooring, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Coates. Any discussion about that? Okay, I don't know. I'm second guessing that this is the right place to do that. I think maybe we need to add that under one of the letters of board action rather than right here. So I think what we need instead of what I just did, yeah, so the addition to the agenda is that we are going to take a motion to appoint a treasurer pro tem.
right.
I'm going to try not to get caught up in procedure because there's a motion laying on the table right now that we're not doing anything with, and it's going to drive me crazy. Does someone want to make a motion to amend?
Amend the motion to appoint Beryl as treasurer pro tem and
Maybe we'll
move its location in the agenda under 5A1.
That works.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
And then the superintendent's report will be A2.
Perfect. Is there a second for that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Mooring.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Coates. So then let me call the roll again. Mrs. Mooring? Yes. Mrs. Coates? Yes. Mr. Manley?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, so is there a motion then to adopt the agenda as amended?
To adopt it as amended.
And is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Coates. Any discussion about that? I'm going to call the roll. Mr. Manley? Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Give me just a second because I'm trying to take notes too. Okay, so we're going to go down to item number 5A1, which is now, is there a motion to appoint me as the treasurer pro tem?
I'll motion.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Coates and Mrs. Mooring again. I'm going to call the roll one more time. Mrs. Coates? Yes. Mrs. Mooring? Yes. Mr. Manley?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Okay, we are on item number A2, the superintendent's report. Mr. Barrett?
You. Good evening. I want to start out by talking about Phase 2 of our Master Facilities Plan. We had a presentation at our finance meeting, which we talk about a financial update at that meeting, but also facilities. And Mark Ogden our owner's rep from Turner, gave a really good presentation on the process of our additions and building our new high school. So he went through the definition of schematic design, which is the conceptual design, and now we're in design development for our middle schools and high schools, and that's kind of when you take the concept and then you kind of put all the details in. You put the pipes in the walls, you put the electrical in, and you know, find out where the doors and the windows need to be. And so that's what our design team is doing right now. And so Mark walked through that in the timeline, and that's a very good presentation. It's not too long, and if you have the time, it's on our website, and you can check it out. There's all kinds of really good information and milestone dates. So I just wanted to point that out. For our additions at High Point and Blacklick, we're progressing, but we've run into some supply chain hurdles, some permit hurdles, and some things that have been difficult. So Blacklick Elementary, the classroom wing, isn't going to be done until September 12th, so that's a week after Labor Day. And then High Point won't be done until October 17th. So what that means is we're going to postpone phase 2 of our redistricting plan and do it in the following school year, so in the fall of 23. And so letters went out to parents at Blacklick and High Point, and we're sending letters to the parents about redistricting as well. I'm going to turn it over to Jill Elliott to talk about the user group meetings that we're doing currently for our high school and middle schools. And these are meetings that she'll describe. This is where the teachers have input and voice in terms of what the design will look like, what their actual classrooms will look like. So Jill, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so as you know, we've moved into the design development phase of our project planning. We've set up 4 days coming up with teachers and staff from each department and specialty area where we'll be meeting with them either virtually or in person to talk through the interior spaces in the building. So storage needs, equipment needs, furniture, finishes, presentation areas in the classroom. We have a total of 24 meetings scheduled so far, and we'll certainly have follow-up meetings as appropriate. We also, along with the user group meetings, DLR has created several specialized surveys that have been sent out to also collect feedback from the teaching staff and the support staff. And so all of that feedback together will, as they are working on analyzing the interior spaces in the building. So those will be getting started next week and continuing on through the first couple weeks of March.
Did you want to give an update on athletics as well?
So last week we shared a draft schedule that we had put together to accommodate our sports that utilize the stadium. Though it's not everything we had hoped for, just reiterating that what we shared, that we will be able to use the stadium in the month of August for summer and also in the month of August. So that will be nice that our athletes will have opportunity to be on their home stadium. We continued working this week with our partners. Catherine Harris has been doing a great job connecting with Otterbein related to our football schedule and working out those details, and also connecting with other school districts and organizations to make sure we have some backup plans just in case if those would be needed. So Catherine's been working really hard on that to finalize those details. And then lastly, we also have been working on just getting the finite details of the Blacklick Athletic Complex in place so that we make sure we have everything set up for our sports teams that will be utilizing the field space out there.
I know at Finance Committee we talked about once that schedule's final, getting it on our website so that everyone can see. So I just wanted to confirm for everyone here, but then also everyone watching.
Sure, absolutely. That's great. We will do that.
Thank you, Jill. So I have a couple other things I wanted to talk about tonight. So our band had the honor, and they've had this a couple times in the last few years, to be the featured band at the Ohio Music Educators Association conference, which the last few years has been in Cleveland. And unfortunately, they were one of 5 bands chosen. I think only one other band from Central Ohio, Worthington. But it was that Friday where we had the bad weather on the 4th, and so we weren't able to get up there. I think, that was just such a big disappointment. And but it was such an honor for the band to be chosen. There were some other students there that had gone up on Thursday when the weather wasn't so bad, and they were in the All-State band. And so I know Mr. Seabriak and Mr. Miller went up to watch them, but that was a real honor, so I wanted to mention that. And so that's sort of like going to state if you're an athletic team, like a basketball team or a football team. And the same thing as Kara mentioned with the debate. We have 10 students going to Worcester, and that's like going to a state championship. So really a lot of amazing things. Wanted to just express kudos to our theater department, Mr. Wagner, and the students who put on the Laramie project this month. And this weekend, the theater department is doing dinner theater. So there's a session tonight, and the play is a new play. It's called A One Stoplight Town. And then the dinner theater part will be Friday, tomorrow, and Saturday. And I think one of the days they're doing Olive Garden, and I can't remember the restaurant on the second day. So that's 3 days. That's going to be exciting. Our swag classes are featured in Gahanna's magazine, City Magazine, Uniquely Gahanna. There's a nice piece on them. Our athletic teams, our winter sports teams, are in postseason competition right now. And we had one of the Rams assistant coaches was a Gahanna graduate. His name is Jonathan Cooley. He graduated from Gahanna Lincoln in 2007. So that's all I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Barrel and Boar is
is
the
it?
restaurant for dinner
Is that
theater.
it? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
What night
Booker.
is that? Okay. Yeah, I think there's still tickets left. You don't have to, oh, by the way, I meant to say this, you don't have to eat dinner to see the play. I think you can see the play without dinner. Yeah. Thank you. Assist.
Any additional questions from board members for Mr. Barrett or Mrs. Elliott? I think the draft version of the schedule is in the Gahanna This Week online. I know that was a draft version, so that'll be good to get the final version on the website in case there are any changes from the draft. So that's not the only thing that's out there.
You mentioned it, bro, but this week news, it's just full of all kinds of great stuff about our community, and kudos to Jennifer Chrysler, former board member. There's the lead story is about her role in developing the Intel deal that's coming to our area. So it's a really great piece. So if you have a chance, check that out.
Thank you. We do not have a treasurer's report this evening, so we are on letter C, financial business. There are 3 items for action, and if there's not an objection to taking those items together, is there a motion to approve items number 1 through 3 under letter C? Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Is there a second?
Good.
Any discussion?
And that the middle school athletics is a new general fund account because we have not had middle school baseball before, so that's exciting to have that added into our program of athletics for the middle school piece. And I think we had a question on Tuesday with regard to the food service because the government had been providing free food. We didn't fill the appropriation for food service, and so now that that's maybe going away, that's what the 600,000 is on that line item.
Salaries are included in that number. So.
Thank you for that clarification. And as always, we thank all of the individuals who have made donations to our district during this reporting period. Any additional discussion? Okay, Mrs. Mooring? Yes. Mr. Manley? Yes. Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. We are on letter D. There are 2 items for action. If there's not an objection to taking those 2 items together, is there a motion to approve items number 1 and 2 under letter D?
Move.
Thank you, Mrs. Coates. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Manley. Any discussion? Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Manley? Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. We're on letter E. There are 25 items for action. If there's not an objection to taking those items together, is there a motion to approve items number 1 through 25 under letter E?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Manley. Is there a second? I'll second. Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Any discussion?
I say this all the time, but again, we have some amazing team members that are retiring, and their service to our students and our staff have been just incredible. So we will miss all of them, but especially those that are retiring and have given thousands of students great contributions.
Thank you, Mrs. Mooring.
Me.
Any additional discussion? Okay, Mr. Manley. Mrs. Mooring? Yes. Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. There are 7 items for action under general business. If there's not an objection to taking those items together, is there a motion to approve items number 1 through 7 under letter F? Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Manley. Any discussion?
Are the buses that we're disposing of being sold, or are they obsolete? Do we have? Scrapped. Okay, gotcha. I was just
Facilities director there in the back. Thank you.
I was just curious.
Any additional discussion? I guess for anyone who's curious about the policies that we're approving tonight, those were all discussed at our Policy and Governance Committee meeting that was a couple weeks ago, which you are more than welcome to attend. That is a committee meeting that is a quarterly meeting. No other discussion? Okay, Mrs. Mooring? Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
I am also a yes. We are on board reports and discussions. I have a short-ish legislative update. Okay, so House Bill 51 was delivered to Governor DeWine today, so it passed out of both the House and the Senate. And it is with the governor awaiting signature. This is a bill that doesn't really have anything to do with school districts. It's related, well, a little bit to do with school districts, I guess, but not really Gahanna. It's related to property valuation determinations for property damaged by tornadoes. But, interestingly, there was some language that was added to that bill at the last minute that will give public bodies the option to meet virtually. It was passed with an emergency language, So that bill will become effective immediately upon signature by the governor. And it will extend the option to meet virtually from the date that the governor signs it through June 30th of 2022. The reason that I say it's interesting is that I think we actually had a need for it a couple months ago when there were at least one or two of us who were exposed to COVID and trying to figure out how we were going to continue meeting, but we didn't even have the option for one of us. Even if the meeting was in person, there was no option for even one of us to participate virtually. So I think we had to do some meeting date shuffling so that we could all participate. But apparently they are now passing that language, and like I said, it will be in effect through June 30th of 2022. Senate Bill 181 is a piece of legislation that was delivered to the governor for signature last week. That is a bill that would establish restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing or participating in interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. That bill would also permit certain officials to limit the wearing of religious apparel if a legitimate danger to participation is identified, but requires an administrator or official to offer all reasonable accommodations. Additionally, that bill would provide civil immunity for schools and school districts, among others. House Bill 327 is, I don't know what that was. Lightning? Oh. House Bill 327, I've mentioned before, it is a bill that is known as the Divisive Topics Bill. That is a bill that was heard in the House State and Local Government Committee this week. They adopted another substitute version of the bill that passed along partisan lines. One change to the legislation in this version of the substitute bill. Wow, that's a really hard reading. One of the changes is that a statement was included opining that the outlawing of slavery, quote, dispels the idea that the United States institutions are systemically racist, end quote. Another change would require a school board to annually adopt a policy approving a list of, quote, balanced partisan and nonpartisan activities consistent with the bill. Additionally, the new version would require the State Board of Education to amend licensure code to make the following conduct unbecoming of a teacher. And there are several pieces to that. One of them includes unfairly presenting both sides of a political or ideological belief. Additionally, the new version of this legislation would require the state board to investigate each report of a violation rather than each confirmed report of a violation. And it would specify that if a teacher teaches multiple sections, each section or class subject to a violation is considered a separate offense. As I mentioned, that bill is still in the House State and Local Government Committee. I think we are on the third or fourth version of the legislation, and I will keep us informed with regard to where that legislation goes. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the House Primary and Secondary Committee met yesterday and received a presentation at their request from the interim state superintendent, Stephanie Siddons, about how the legislature can help students and teachers as we come out of the pandemic. The primary feedback that interim state superintendent Stephanie Siddons provided to the legislature was that what she hears from school districts is that there's not enough time to address student mental health because of all of the mandates from the state level. So her primary recommendation to the legislature was that essentially they stop passing legislation related to public school districts. That's all that I have as far as a legislative report. Mr. Manley, anything from Eastland Fairfield?
Thank you for that report. Okay, so for Eastland Fairfield, I reached out to our liaison, and Matt told me that the board did meet, but he didn't have anything to report. And so what I have is I have passed out, I'd like to just share with folks, there's a summer camp for middle school, middle schoolers put out by Eastland Fairfield, our partners, and the flyers are out there. I passed them out there on the table. It's an exciting event. People just started signing up, and it's June 2nd and 3rd. You can sign up for both sessions, so you don't have to choose. There's about 25 classes, and the sessions look really exciting. So grab a flyer. Even if you don't have middle schoolers, you know somebody who does. Share that with them. And if you have any questions, my email is manlyd@gjps.org. So appreciate your enthusiasm and support on this. Thanks so much.
And Dion, I'm sorry. Dion, I saw that it says it's free, so that's amazing that this is a free opportunity.
Minor detail. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Manley. Anything from Gahanna Parks and Rec? Can you? I can hear you.
They did not have a meeting this month.
Okay, thank you. Anything from our local government liaison, Mrs. Mooring?
Been in communication with the mayor. They're very anxious to work with the district in the project plan and pulling together all of the people that are affected by it, their departments and our team. So I think that's getting planned for the next, within the next 5 days. So I think that'll be very important to keep our process moving.
Anything additional, I guess, from Gahanna Jefferson Education Foundation, Mrs. Coates?
Aaron covered it all earlier, but just really excited to be attending the gala, and I think our full board is going to be attending the gala, so I think we're really looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mrs. Coates. And Mrs. Horn is not here this evening. I don't know when the next insurance committee meeting is. Okay. Any additional items from board members? Oh.
The insurance committee meeting scheduled, but it was a snow day. So we have a new date.
I'll ask one more time. Any additional items from board members? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Manley. Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Mooring? Yes. Mr. Manley? Yes. Mrs. Coates?
Sorry.
Yes.
It is, I'm a yes too, and it is 7:40 p.m. and we are adjourned. If there are any students who need somebody to sign their government form, you can bring it up to me now for signature.